This is We the Sales Engineers Podcast, show 58.
Welcome to We the SEs Podcast, the show for sales engineers by sales engineers with your host, Ramzi Majraba. Ramzi really enjoys the Amazon Prime show, The Grand Tour.
Hello, SE Nation, and welcome back to another episode. My name is Ramzi Majraba, in case you don't know me, and I am here to help sales engineers learn better skills, which will hopefully end up leading them to earning more money so they can feed their family, maybe organic beef, if that's what you want to buy. All right, that was a weird tangent, but okay, never mind. So this is another solo show, and I have to admit, I'm enjoying doing these more and more, almost as much as doing an interview, but it's always fun for me to do an interview because I get to learn from the people I'm asking questions to, whereas in this, I am endowing what little wisdom I have. Is endowing the right word? It seems that I have no wisdom today. Anyways, it's weird for me to ask you to review the show after this early on blunder, but if you are enjoying the show, if you're finding the information informative and you think they'll be helpful to other people, by all means, please review the show on iTunes, Stitcher, wherever it is that you listen to it. And I am working on getting steady content onto YouTube and even LinkedIn videos. So I would love your constructive criticism. Check those out. Let me know what you think and how I can make them better. And feel free to subscribe there as well. Over the last month, the theme has been obscure SE skills. We talked about humor, which, although we all know humor is a good way to break the ice, get customers engaged, no one actually talks about it. And we also talked about negotiation, which is not something that sales engineers do a lot, but it could be helpful for us to understand what the account managers are doing, so we can at least not step on their feet when they're trying to say something strategically. So this show is about the skills that no one talks about for sales engineers. And I have 10 of them listed in front of me. And I'm just going to go through them one by one. And I'd love your comments, your feedback, the show notes where you can actually leave comments and start a discussion will be at wethesalesengineers.com/show58. So leave comments there. I'll be happy. I always answer all my comments, but that's easy because I've only had maybe 2 all year. So we have to work on that together. All right, so skill number 1 that no one talks about is the skill of practicing. And this is, in fact, something that I talk about a lot, but I don't hear anybody else talking about it. So let me get on my soapbox. Athletes practice, musicians practice, actors train and practice. Last week or a couple weeks ago, I talked about I wrote a blog about, what's it called? Imposter syndrome. I think I wrote a blog. Maybe I did a podcast. I can't remember. I'll link it in the show notes. But practice allows us to get over the imposter syndrome. And there's a lot of things we can practice. We can practice speaking, which I'm doing right now. I usually speak very quickly to the point where nobody understands what I'm saying. So when I'm practicing through the podcast, I'm practicing to speak more clearly, and it's very hard for me to hear myself talk because I find myself I can pinpoint all my weaknesses while I listen to myself talking. But that's the point of practice. Although maybe you shouldn't practice on a podcast, you should practice in private. That's the only way I got myself to practice. Which brings up a good point. If you really want to practice, maybe you should start a podcast of your own if you want to do work on your speaking skills. So here's a homework for today. Think of a topic you would like to podcast about and start a podcast. We have to practice answering questions properly and digging deep to try to understand what the customer is actually asking for. We have to practice the technologies that we work on. For example, I work on test equipment, and it covers a varied amount of technology. It can go all the way from networking and routing to security to live network testing. There's a lot there. And some things we just do once. But if we just wait till we have a customer question to try something out, we can learn it. It will take us a long time to learn it the first time. And then we won't try it again until the next time we get asked the question, which could be a year. And we have to relearn it again. Whereas if we continuously practice, it just gets easier and easier, and we don't have to relearn everything all over again. We need to practice demonstrations. We need to practice asking something in return to customer requests. That's a big one that we never practice, and everybody expects us to do. And so, as I mentioned, there are 10 skills in the list. So we need to practice working on all those 10 skills in the list. And I'll cover them. This was the first one. So skill number 2 is marketing oneself and the company. Marketing is a skill. And we can market ourselves the same way I'm doing. Again, another reason to start a podcast or a blog or something that will brand yourself. And that's a skill. And not only that, you can use marketing yourself and the company. You can market the company as well. You can come up with ways that your products solve problems, because I've seen what marketing people do. They focus on the benefits and features and all that, but they don't know what customers are running into. You, as a sales engineer, actually have a perfect view to know what problems the customers are trying to solve. So why is marketing useful? Because one, you'll be a trusted source. And as I mentioned, you know what problems the customers are trying to solve, which makes it easier to pick a topic for your blog or demo or podcast, whatever it is. But please make sure to run it by your bosses and get clearance. Whether you're marketing yourself or marketing the company. A quick story, maybe you've heard it before. I ran into problems with my previous company because I started doing this podcast. Although I had ran it by my manager, it seems that higher up, someone got pissed off that I talked to someone they don't like and they try to shut it down. I didn't get clearance all the way. I just talked to my manager and I thought that was fine. And try to get it in writing if you could. Just be careful. And if you're talking about the company, if you're trying to market the company, I would assume no one would want you not to market your company, but you never know. Especially if you start making mistakes on your YouTube videos. If you're representing your company on your videos or blog posts, make sure you're doing a correct job, a good job. Skill number 3, communication internally. Everybody talks about communicating with the customer, sending emails. I haven't heard about communicating internally, although it should be obvious. SEs communicate as much internally as they do externally. We communicate with product managers, support engineers. We talk to the specialist sales engineers. So if you're a generalist SE and you have a specialized SE in different technologies, we talk to them a lot. We communicate a lot with our account managers, and that might be the hardest one. So why do we need to communicate, and why do we need to be good at that? Well, because we need to explain feature requests, product issues, or whatever opportunities that we're working on, and we need to convince whoever it is that we need to convince to help us out. Just as an example, in my previous job, my specialist SE for a specific product had a very high quota of, let's just throw out a number, $10 million. That wasn't the actual number, but it's easy to do math. I had a couple of deals that were $100,000, which were not guaranteed. And I needed their help. But if they were to work with every single SE who has a 100K deal for them, they would need to close 100 deals a year. So, just to put this into perspective, if you want to close 100 deals a year, generally speaking, the rule of thumb that I've heard people talk about is that you need 2.5 times that in your funnel, which means you're working on 250 opportunities a year. If my overlay salesperson who has a $10 million quota needs to work on 250 opportunities a year to close 100 of them, they're going to have to work on one opportunity every working day of the year almost. I hope I got my math right. But basically, they have to work on a lot of deals. Whereas instead of working on instead of closing 100 $100,000 deals, they can close 10 $1 million deals, which would be easier to work on. I'll answer that for you. The 10 deals. So we need to be able to convince them. We need to communicate in such a way that persuades those people to help us when we need them to help us. All right, so that was communication. Then we have skill number 4, coaching and mentoring, wait for it, your account manager. Not fellow SEs, people talk about that. We have to coach and mentor our account managers. Here's the thing. Account managers come and go. There's a lot of turnover when it comes to account managers. Some companies have seen account managers be there for 10 years. Some companies have seen account managers last 6 months. In my previous job, the 4 years I worked there, I worked with 4 or 5 different salespeople. Not at the same time. So there was a bit of turnover. And I've talked to a few people where account managers don't really know what we do, right? And the reason they don't know what we do is because possibly they've never been sales engineers. They just think you can snap a finger and everything will work fine. You don't need to work on demos. You just go do demos. And they think you're a free resource, which means you get to go with them on every qualification call. In a lot of cases, that means for the sales engineer to travel from one part of the country to another to attend an unqualified meeting and just to figure out that it's unqualified. So it's our job to coach the account managers on what we need before we go on to a meeting. It's our job to coach the account manager on understanding the amount of work a demo needs to be a good demo. So I guess that's also part of communication. You're communicating with your account manager all the time to no, I cannot do a demo tomorrow. Generally speaking, the way I see it, there's a lot of times customers really need a demo tomorrow, and that's fine. But a lot of times the account manager just wants a demo tomorrow so that he can get this done and close the deal. But it's better off for the account manager and the customer to push it off a few days just so you can prepare a useful demo for the customer. And you need to be able to coach them. So 4, I'm going to repeat it. It's coaching and mentoring your account manager. Number 5, protecting information. Not all information are created equal. Some information you want to give out willingly, some information you want to wait for the customer to ask about, and you're not hiding something, you're not lying to them. This just creates a better dynamic, and some information you may not want to provide at all at this point. An example of that is you heard a product manager saying they're coming out with a new module in a year to replace the current module. It does not mean that the new module is going. The current module will be obsolete in a year. It might have a 10-year lifespan still. So if you're sitting and talking to a customer who's interested in this specific module, should you inform them about the one that may or may not be coming in a year? And I think my tone and the words I used should give you an idea of what the answer is. So no, we shouldn't. One, because the customer, if they're interested in whatever is coming next, they might stop themselves from buying this product, the one that you have today. It's like two birds in a tree, then one in the bush. Kind of, I don't know if that's the right expression, but they're looking ahead. They're forgetting what they have today, but they might need this today. Not only that, the one that's coming down a year is not guaranteed. So let's say in a year they decide to wait a year to buy that new module, and it doesn't come in, and at that point they actually need it ASAP. Are they going to be happy with their account team who promised something? Not even promised. They mentioned something and the customer took it as a promise. So we need to be able to protect that information. You sell the customer what they need today, not what they might need in a year or so. Also, what I like to do, and I've heard it from a few people now, and frankly, I may have learned it from them, but when I'm doing a demo, I don't like to give out all the information one shot to the customer. I like to leave some easy ones, like some obvious questions that they might ask in my backpack so that I have something to answer and we can create a discussion versus me telling them all the information and the customer just sitting there with no interaction. So that's another piece of protecting information. And a big one for me is when it seems that customers, at least with me, I don't know if that's the same. Actually, I'd love to know if it's the same for everybody or many people out there. They tend to come to me for pricing, even if it's through email. They send me an email saying we need a pricing for this. And then I have to actually send the email out to my manager. And it happens quite a bit my account manager. It happens quite a bit when I am face to face with the customer and they ask me for pricing. And I have to say that I cannot give you that pricing. But in last week's podcast, if you haven't heard it, you should go back and hear it. Show 57. Jason Mitchell, my guest, who is a negotiating expert, mentioned the concept of anchoring. So talk to your account manager. Maybe your account manager would want you to anchor it. And anchoring means is throwing out a number that's not really reasonable. Like let's say a Honda Civic that would usually sell for $11,000. You can say something to the effect, "Oh yeah, like I heard people bought it for $20,000, but I'm not sure." So talk to your account manager if they want you to do that. I haven't done that. I will let my account manager handle negotiations for now. All right, let's do a quick recap because we're halfway through the list. So number 1 was the skill of practicing. 2 is marketing oneself or the company. 3 is communication internally. 4 is coaching and mentoring your account manager. 5 is protecting information. Number 6, it's empathy. That is a skill that we need to work on. I'm not talking about being all lovey-dovey with hugs, although there's nothing wrong with some bro hugs. It's just to understand where people are coming from and actually caring about them. 1, it shows that, you care. You understand their business if you're empathetic with their business. If they're going through something personal, it allows you to build a relationship and gets you closer to your customer. And just understand everything better. I'm reading a book called The Collaborative Sale right now, which talks about situational knowledge. If someone is going through a rough time at home, is that possible that it could affect his work situation? Yes. Being empathetic about it will allow you to understand that. And please, please, please do not fake it. If you don't care, you don't care. It's just the type of person you are. You could work on it if you want to, I think. But people know when you're faking it. So either really care deeply and like really, or just don't fake it. You might be better off not empathizing at all instead of faking it. I had a former account manager who would fake stuff like that. And it's like with the "aw," and every time he says that, my whole body would cringe. And he's talking to me. It's not like he's talking to a customer, but like whatever. Like just don't fake it. Maybe that's a pet peeve of mine. Mind reading, otherwise known as body language, is skill number 7. I found a couple books online, by the way, related to this. I just don't know if they're good books. I might have a guest that's related that will be talking about this coming soon, so stay tuned. But if you guys know a book about body language, I really need to work on that, so help me out. And this goes together with empathy fairly well. If you can look at the body language, understand what the customer is thinking or where the conversation is going, you can stop or do corrective measures if need to. You can keep pushing. And not only about understanding the customer, it's if you're in a meeting at the same time with your account manager, it is nice to know what your account manager is thinking. I've been through situations where the goal of the meeting shifts from trying to sell product A to product B. And if myself and the account manager are not on the same page, and it shifts because, we discover stuff during the meeting, and we figure out that although we walked in prepared and we thought product A is going to work, we soon realized that product B might be a better fit. So it shifted. And I had a very good account manager who wasn't really technical, but he can tell that I've shifted, and he just helps me out. So it was a two-way street. I was reading his mind because I could see him understanding what I'm doing, and I was comfortable going forward. And he was reading my mind, and he trusted me enough to let me take it and run with it. And it's worked out well. So you can read the customer. You can also read your account manager, which is usually very helpful. So that was number 7. Number 8, and this is something I've never heard any sales engineer talk about, is account planning. I'm sure a lot of sales engineers participate in that. I hope they should. Let me know in the comments if you do participate in account planning. Because it's very important to be on the same, talk about mind reading. You have to be on the same page with your account manager to work on the same opportunities. There are opportunities that are not there yet, like where the account manager is prospecting. But once you start working on opportunities, like do the discovery and keep going forward, you have to be on the same page. Not only that, if you want to make your quota, you and your account manager have to figure out where you're going to get that money from. So you have to know your customers, and in a lot of situations, the SE knows the customers better than the sales guy. If you're one SE to many account managers, you may not know the customers as deeply as the account manager, but you would know all the customers. So if one account manager leaves and another one comes in, you're able to help them with account planning because you know everything. You know who spends what. You know what their problems are. And I'm talking about existing customers. And you know what you could sell them in the future. Different companies do things differently, but generally speaking, when they're doing the account reviews with their VPs and directors, the account managers, that is, they go sit in front of Salesforce and talk about all the different opportunities that they're working on. And I'm not saying you should sit on that, although you could. It's just bring some popcorn, and as you watch your account manager try to defend why he pushed the opportunity out. But before that, when he's preparing for that, try to participate, try to help him out, work with him, because two brains are, in most cases, better than one. And you can come up with new ideas together about how to sell to different customers. Number 9, know when to quit. Whether it's the deal collectively, or upselling stuff, or just shutting up in general and stop trying to sell. Here's a story of a mistake that I've done. We sit down, myself, my account manager, and a customer. So the customer used to buy from the incumbent mostly, and we're trying to break in. And on several occasions, I noticed the customer provide a story about the competitor, about not a negative story, just a story that could help us in a way. And being like competitive, I'd always try to add on to it, and again, not attacking the competitors, just trying to make it sound that I'm not speaking English right now. Show how better we are in certain situations. And as soon as I add my comments to his comment, like he already started that way, I took it and walked with it a little bit, I get pushback from the customer. After doing that twice, I learned to shut up. I learned to quit trying to sell. The customer already kind of bought from us, so why am I continuing this? And that's a small example. We as SEs have to learn when we should not work on a deal. And it's very difficult. It's very difficult to pull out of a deal, especially when you're behind on your quota, when you're trying to make everything work. And if you don't have enough opportunities in the funnel, then by all means work on everything. A Hail Mary is better than no Mary, I guess. Is that a saying? Anyways, just we have to figure out when to stop working on something, and because nothing's coming out of it. Last but not least, and this was actually going to be a bonus one, but let's say number 10. It's picking up heavy stuff. If you've ever worked with hardware, if you're working with software, then never mind. You can just shut off now. But if you've worked with hardware that then you have to pick up servers, pick up routers. So go to the gym, work out. Might be fun. I enjoy lifting heavy stuff, although my back hurts from time to time, but it is a skill. They say lift with your knees. That's actually not true. But I'm not a doctor. I don't even play one on TV. So that was it. Let me recap the 10. I should come up with a podcast called the 10 SE Commandments. If you guys, in the comments below, or wherever, if we can start a list of the SE Commandments, that would be awesome. Right, so here's the list. Number 1, practicing. 2, marketing oneself and the company. 3, communication internally. 4, coaching and mentoring your account managers. 5, protecting information. 6, empathy. 7, mind reading. 8, account planning. 9, knowing when to quit. And 10, picking up heavy stuff. So that's the list. I'd love to know what you guys think. Hit me up on Twitter, we the SEs, or LinkedIn, either Ramsey Marjaba or We the Sales Engineers. Show notes are at wetheses.com /show58 or wetheSalesEngineers.com /show58. And that's it. Subscribe to the email list if you like more information. If you're interested in building your career go to wetheSalesEngineers.com/career builder, just so you have an idea of where your career is going and what you want to do with your life. And that's it. Thank you guys for listening. This was show 58. And thank you for all the nice comments that I'm receiving from the different sources. It really pushes me to keep going forward. So I appreciate you guys. And, I'll see you guys next time. With that, this is Ramsey signing off.